Good evening, everybody. How are you? This is Freddie Ewan, two-time GM of the Year, current Pantheon Cup champion, 2023 regular season champion, and host of the TPFF show. It's playoff time. Big day today. We had the Wildcard playoffs in full effect. Big weekend. Started off on Thursday night with the Raiders just scoring a ton of points, smashing the shit out of the Lonely Chargers. Had 3 games Saturday. Finished up Sunday, and tomorrow we're going to have the Monday night game with my birdies against Brian Seahawks in Seattle. That's going to be a fun one. But to the TPFFKL, we are getting closer and closer to figure out who the final 4 teams are, the teams that are going to be in the money, the teams that are going to be fighting for the Pantheon Cup and year-long bragging rights. Let's talk about this really quick. We're going to get to the first game. The 3 seed, TDK, against the 6 seed IFT. TDK took a tough loss last week against Semi-Automatic. Went all the way from winning their 3rd regular season championship down to the 3 seed. Didn't get a bye week. We're going to have to prove it, and really had an uphill battle to get to the Pantheon Cup, facing a really tough 6 seed in IFT. Turns out it was no problem for them. Maybe the 1 seed is not the best seed to have in the TPFFKL playoffs. No one has actually ever won from the 1 seed because Jimmy's been the last 2 1 seeds. But anyway, let's get to this. So nothing was going on Thursday night for the Raiders. Yesterday, it did not look good for TDK during the first 2 games. Joe Mixon put up 13 points. Jimmy had Addison on the bench, who had 2 receiving touchdowns, 111 yards receiving. Can't blame him for putting him on the bench. He had other guys that were better, definitely a lot better than that. But it looked like it was not going to be looking good for TDK. That was until the Denver Broncos and the Detroit Lions played. 5 touchdowns between Sam Laporta and Jamar Gibbs. Gibbs gets 100 rushing yards in the bonus, gets a rushing touchdown and a receiving touchdown. Laporta, only 56 yards, 5 receptions, 3 of those were touchdowns. Laporta puts up 26.1 points. Gibbs puts up 26.8 points. Huge points from the Lions. Over on the other side, Zach had St. Brown going, and he also had Williams going on Denver. St. Brown has a good game, 23 points. Williams totally shits the bed. Williams had a projection at 12 points, only had 3 points, 27 yards rushing, 2 receptions for -7 yards. Williams just really killed him, was going to need to rebound today. Back on the other side, we find out early in the day that Jimmy's best player, Tyreek Hill, was going to be out of the game. Had to take Tyreek out. We also found out that Jalen Hurts is now a serious questionable for tomorrow. Jimmy goes and picks up Marcus Mariota, the backup. In the meantime, has to put in Chris Godwin for Tyreek Hill. He's also got Jalen Waddle. 142 receiving yards, 1 receiving touchdown, 8 receptions. Puts Godwin in. Godwin gets him 155 yards and 10 receptions, 23 points. On top of that, Deontay Johnson didn't have a bad game for him. Jalen Warren did what he was supposed to do. Got him 9 points. On the other side, Zach really gets nothing out of Brandon Ayuk. 3 receptions, 37 yards, 5 points. Ferguson, really doesn't do that much either. Gets 44 yards, 6 receptions. San Francisco defense puts up 13 points. Zach still has some 2 big studs going. He's got AJ Brown going tomorrow. He also has DK Metcalf going tomorrow, which is probably going to be a good game, probably going to be pretty high scoring. But as we look right now, Jimmy has a 50-point lead. Still has his quarterback going, which is either going to be Jalen Hurts or Marcus Mariota, and still has Travis Etienne going tonight. Jimmy is a 99% favorite. It looks like he is going to go on, make his 3rd straight Final Four, get in the money, have a chance to play Brian next week, where they will battle for Pantheon Cup superiority. On the other side, this was very interesting, and this one is far from over. Don't think there was a whole lot going on Saturday between these 2 teams. Well, Yeah, a little bit. Najee Harris played for FJTK James, who has changed his name to Fuck My Life. Keep that, James, because it seems to be working for you. I got a little bit on that when we get to it. But anyway, Najee Harris completely shits the bed, 33 yards, one lost fumble. Doesn't do much. Meanwhile, Zamir White on the Raiders sat the bench for FJTK and had 16 points on Thursday. Good game by Zamir White, but did not look good at all in the morning. Bijan Robinson, what the fuck is Arthur Smith doing? Is it this? If this guy is not the worst NFL head coach in the world, I don't know who is. I mean, this guy's got running backs galore. He was the offensive coordinator in Tennessee, where all you had to do is just give the ball to Derrick Henry. That was the whole offense for Tennessee. You could basically do the same thing with Atlanta and be fine. You don't have a quarterback that can throw the ball. You don't really have any good receivers. So why don't you just give the ball to your young rookie stuff? And Algier, who's a great backup, they did that in week 1, and they did excellent. They did that in the first couple of weeks, and he's just stopped giving the ball off for some reason. Arthur Smith has to be the worst coach I have ever seen in the NFL, maybe even worse than Chip Kelly. Bijan Robinson, okay, has 11 rush yards, only 7 carries, lost the fumble. Bijan Robinson doesn't even put up a point. He puts up 0.9 points. Breece Hall, tough matchup. The Jets are just awful on offense. Breece Hall was awful today. 12 rushing yards, 6 receiving yards, 1 reception, has 2 points. Travis Kelce, really bad game. I didn't think Kelce was going to have that good of a game, but I thought he would have been a little bit better than that. Kind of had a pass interference touchdown taken from him. Only 5 receptions, 28 yards. So between Breece Hall, Bijan Robinson, and Travis Kelce, gets less than 9 points between the 3 of those guys. Justin Jefferson played yesterday. Yeah, got him 11 points. Going on the other side, chicken of the cave, Sean has Jamar Chase, puts up 8 points. Derrick Henry shits the bed. Derrick Henry gets you 3 points, really does nothing. David Njoku, 24 points, big game by him, 140 receiving yards, a receiving touchdown, 10 receptions. Adam Thielen really didn't do much today, 43 reception yards, 4 receptions. But anyway, at one point, it was looking like chicken of the cave was, I think at one point I saw it was about a 92% favorite to win this game. That's when the San Francisco 49ers came alive. And this is, I have to give this to the GM. Suits up Purdy and Deebo Samuel together. Purdy. I mean, what can you say about Brock Purdy? All right. I mean, if this guy is not a top 10 NFL quarterback, I don't know what is. Purdy, they the very last pick in the draft, they put him as a system quarterback. Sure, he's got a great team with him. They have a great defense. San Francisco, by far the most talented team in the NFL. Purdy has 4 passing touchdowns, 242 yards, doesn't throw any interceptions, makes 0 mistakes. 2 of those touchdowns were to Deebo Samuel. Deebo Samuel only has 4 receptions, 48 yards with 2 touchdowns. Purdy gets him 33 points. Deebo Samuel almost gets him 20. Correlation is key. Correlation is key. When you get into the playoffs, you have to find every little single edge. When I look at the playoffs are really like it's like a multi-day poker tournament, where you're going to have a couple wild cards that are going to get far. But, if you're playing in a multiple poker tournament for, 5 or 6 days, usually the better players are going to rise to the top until you get to the final table. Final table, their blinds are, decreased. You got to get a lot of your money in pre-flop. There's not a whole lot of post-flop play. Could be a total crapshoot at a final table in a multi-day tournament. Or any poker tournament with over 200 players to begin with. So the playoffs, it's the same way. You need to get lucky in the playoffs, and you need to find every little edge. I got on Sean a little bit a couple weeks ago and looked this up and didn't know really whether it made a difference or not. And it kind of, there was common opinions on both. What it was starting like, what it's like, I never try to start a running back against the opposing defense. Definitely never start a quarterback against the opposing defense, unless you are really heavily favored and need a safe floor, which was not the case with Chicken in the Cave. Chicken in the Cave starts Dak Prescott and the Buffalo defense. Dallas was at Buffalo. So anytime Dak did something, scored, which he didn't, Buffalo, Dak Prescott shit the bed today, 134 passing yards, 1 interception, no touchdowns, gets him only 7 points. Buffalo gets him 11 points. Didn't matter anyway. But, you're looking for edge. You do not want to start your quarterback and the opposing defense. Just doesn't make a lot of sense. Don't know if that was a little bit of oversight, but those are the things in the playoffs where, you look at Brian, and I got to give some credit to Brian. Everyone's making fun of him because he's got 4 defenses, but, Brian's looking for little edges. When I played Brian, last year, I had, and Brian actually won the game. He beat me, but, I was really heavy on the Buffalo Bills. I had Josh Allen and Stephen Diggs on my team, and Brian started a Bills receiver because he was looking for, he was looking for some kind of correlation to take away from Josh Allen. And, hopefully Allen would hit that receiver, wouldn't hit Diggs, and he would get some extra points that way. So that's those little edges that you have to look for in fantasy football, just like you do in poker. And Sean didn't really look for that. I don't think Sean really looked for that. I don't know whether it was an oversight or what it was, but, already was losing a little bit of correlation where anytime Dak threw to CD Lamb, it was going over to James' side. This game is not over, though. This game is not over. As we have it right now, James has a 27-point lead. He's got he is a 64% favorite, so he is a little bit less than a 2-1 favorite. And Sean has Devontae Smith going tomorrow night and Swift. Seattle tomorrow, it looks like I think it's going to be cloudy tomorrow in Seattle. So I think tomorrow is going to be a high-scoring game. Smith and Swift are both capable of putting up big numbers. Seattle does not have the best defense. I know that Philly, I look at, I read stuff about the Eagles every day. Jalen Hurts is sick. That's going to be a big factor on what happens exactly in the game, whether Smith does well or Swift does well. That's going to be a big factor in the game, but I think there's going to be a lot of points scored. So this game is not over yet. Right now, James's new team name, which you should keep, Fuck My Life, has the inside edge. Much of that due to Brock Purdy, Deebo Samuel, and on the other side, just the correlation where I don't think it really would have mattered in this game because Dak was so horrible. But you really got to make sure that you are correlating your team to beat the other team. The objective is to beat the other team, and you want to find every little edge possible to do that. Brian, believe it or not, and I always make fun of Brian, but he's a smart fantasy player, knows how to do that. Jimmy, I've seen do that a couple times. A couple of years ago, I had a quarterback that was hurt or something. Jimmy started picking up all the quarterbacks that was on waivers. Very smart. Those are the things that you need to do. You need to look for small edges. You need to block players. This is where the cream of the crop happens. This is why we have 2 out of 4 guys who have finished in the money every year. That's the reason why. Follow my lead. I write strategy guys on this in crayon. Read them. So, as it stands now, TDK going to go on to play the SEADOGS, the 3 versus the 2 seed in Clusterville. Clusterville today, if he was going to play, had a big game. CMC 42 points, Kyron Williams 27 points. Not a whole lot of the wide receivers. Puka, Tompkins, Diggs, not a very good day. Eckler has been awful. I don't even know about starting Eckler anymore because the Chargers football team is a total fucking dumpster fire. But it's going to be interesting. He's got 3 defenses, ended up dropping one. Going to have to make a decision next week between Lamar Jackson and Trevor Lawrence. Jimmy's probably still going to roll with Jalen Hurts. If Jalen doesn't play tomorrow, it's probably going to only be a one-day thing. On the other side, if James ends up winning, they're going to have to go to the TOD Dome and play the 1 seed TOD. TOD today, if they were to play, did not have a great game from from, picked up Jared Goff. Jared Goff had 41 points, but starting quarterback Mahomes, 21 points, Adams, 23 points, James Cook, huge day, 38 points, but really no one. Pollard, horrible game. Saquon Barkley, horrible game. Sutton, Moore, not really great. Kittle, not really great. All changes next week. Matchups are everything next week. It's gonna be really exciting. Going to be really exciting to watch Monday night. I know that James and Sean are both gonna be on the edge of the seats watching the game. James is a Giants fan. He's gonna be rooting heavily against the Eagles, particularly Devontae Smith and DeAndre Swift. It's going to be an exciting thing. Hopefully, I invited them both on the show, but I'm sure it was a little too early. But I am going to try to get the Final Four on the show. I don't know if Sean will come on the show if he wins. I know that James will. I know that Jimmy will. And I know that Brian will. So if we get all four of the Final Four of the money winners on the show, that would be very exciting. Tpffkal also gave out the Clap Award yesterday. Congratulations to the Red Sharks. Red Sharks are probably going to take the Waffle House routine. Hopefully we can all go there, have a great time, go to the Waffle House. I promise you that if I ever end up at the Waffle House, it's not going to be 6 hours. I got big hairy balls and nothing better to do with my life. I'll spend 18 hours at the Waffle House. All right, guys? Anyway, enjoy tonight. Should be a fun one. Baltimore at Jacksonville Jaguars. I have a couple DraftKings best balls. You needed to finish first or second in these best balls during 13 weeks, and I did that with a couple of them. But then you need to finish first out of 12 the next week and first out of 12 the next week, and then you have a chance to win $1 million. It's freaking impossible. Fantasy football is tough. It's not easy. You got to look for edges. Look for edges all the time. That's how champions are made. Anyway, everyone have a great night. Hope you enjoyed the games. We are down to the Final Four. We'll know tomorrow for sure who they are. Have a great night, everyone. Bye-bye.